Good afternoon and welcome to another reading. This week we are doing a variation on the July spread that is called Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me. And the original spread comes from 365 Tarot Spreads by Sasha Graham. This is a spread that is based on the reading from that book for July 6th. And last week we did a breakdown and went through some of the questions and the positions and the purpose of the spread, kind of setting up for today's variation that we are going to be doing. Now, the purpose that I chose for today's reading is to use the various kissing cliches, so I've kept that from the original spread, as a way to explore and uncover any blocks or challenges to our ability to create and hold intimacy in our relationships. And so sometimes we might have different hangups or different problems with getting really intimate with people, and we end up staying stuck on like those surface levels. This is going to help us understand maybe some of the blocks, maybe help start to clear things out, especially in the relationships that you want to have a greater level of intimacy with. And so the guiding question that I am going to be shuffling into the cards today is, what are the blocks and challenges that are keeping me from being authentic and intimate in my relationships? And now this spread here that we're going to be looking at, we will be looking at the blocks and everything with external relationships. Next week, if you come back, we will be looking at kind of a similar thread, but looking at how to create a healthier and more intimate relationship with ourselves. So today, again, what are the blocks and challenges that are keeping me from being authentic and intimate in my relationships? So we're going to shuffle that into the cards. What are the blocks and challenges that are keeping me from being authentic and intimate in my relationships? Splitting the deck. For this variation, I decided to keep the 9 cards. All right. And so we have continued to keep the 9 cards. And our first position is sticking with the Judas Kiss. What I did for this variation is, the question I have is, what can I do to heal any past betrayals that are impacting my ability to be present and intimate with others? And so sometimes we might find that we have been betrayed by other people in the past, and it makes us very leery or worried about, going through the same thing. And so we kind of tack those personalities or those traits onto the people that we're with right now. And so here we have the 5 of Wands. And the 5 of Wands is interesting for this because when we're looking at what can I heal in regards to my past betrayals, it really does tap into what I was just saying. The 5 of Wands is all about internal dilemmas, internal arguments, internal boundary settings, and anything that has us looking from the inside and coming to terms with ourselves. And so making boundaries with ourselves, making agreements with ourselves. This is also is a lot of that internal arguments that we have, where we spend a lot of time stuck in our heads going over situations, going over relationships, going over conversations that we want to have with other people, and really like spending all that time and focusing on all the terrible outcomes that could come. So we beat ourselves up, we beat ourselves down, and we have to get to a point where we clear out all of that energy that is, kind of going against what it is that we feel passionate about, what it is that we want to do. So if you're looking at, past betrayals, that would be that energy that's there, right? Like, so constantly bringing up and digging up these old betrayals and tagging them on to whoever comes in. Oh, well, this person who had brown hair, they cheated on me when I was 16. And so now I'm very leery of people with brown hair. You hear a lot, it's funny because one of the things that I hear a lot about is names, right? Oh, anyone with such and such a name, they're a horrible person. Or I noticed that all the people with this name, they're really great and they're really fun. And so this is what we need to clear out. We need to be able to get to a point where when we're meeting people, when we're interacting with people, when we're creating intimate relationships with people, we're basing it on the person that is in front of us, not the arguments and the stories and all of the clutter and chaos that we're carrying inside of us. So it's time to really clear that out. That's the first block that we're looking to really kind of move beyond, is to stop having all of these internal things. And part of getting over the internal arguments and stuff like that is just having the conversation with the people that are there, to say to them, look, when I was in a relationship in the past, this happened to me, and I want to not put that on you. And so that's why we're having this conversation. The next position is kiss the cook. And the question for this one is, what supports can help me clear these blocks in a healthy way? So if we're looking at, the blocks here that we have in regards to constantly getting caught up in internal arguments and internal dilemmas, one of the best supports that we can help that will help us clear this away is, interestingly enough, we have the Eight of Wands. We're sticking with energy, it looks like. And so, one of our biggest blocks, again, is it's energetic blocks. It is things that are keeping us from moving forward, because the 5 is also that midway point where you get to that point, you're going, okay, so I can either move forward, I can let this go and move forward, or I'm going to stay stuck here and move back. And then if I move back, I'm just going to keep repeating these patterns. And so one of the things that we're looking at, so one of the supports that we can have, is finding the people around us that can sense when we're getting stuck in our heads, when we're getting stuck in these stories, when our energy is hiccuping. I want to look at it like one of the things, for instance, that the 5 of Wands kind of reminds me of is a record player. And anyone who grew up, I guess they're making a comeback, but anyone who grew up with a lot of LPs knows that when you get a scratch in that vinyl, it'll skip. And so it'll go to a certain point and then it'll skip back. And so you get stuck in these ruts, you get stuck in these grooves that make it very, very difficult to move forward. And so we need to have the support of someone who is going to definitely have the capacity to push us out of the rut. Because one of the things with the 8 of Wands is about momentum. It's about moving forward. It's about clearing those energy fields, those energy strands, like having the meridians all cleared, so that energy, we have access to it and we are able to really feel into what's here and now, as opposed to getting stuck in those grooves from the 5 of Wands. And so right now, what we want to do is we want to create supportive practices that are going to move us forward, that are going to have enough momentum to get us over that, scratch in the vinyl, so that instead of skipping back, we might skip ahead a little bit, but at least we're moving forward and the story's continuing and we're able to kind of look at these things. And so looking to clear these in a healthy way, what you want to do is you want to make sure, first of all, that you're ready for this, because once you clear that blockage, energy will move, right? And so sometimes if we have something that's stuck, if we have energy, stories, emotions that are stuck within our energetic system, you get that person to unplug the log jam or to uncork the bottle, right? Think about when a cork pops off a champagne bottle and it just starts to spill out the top, right? Like that energy is building up behind it and it wants to go somewhere. So when you're doing this, what you want to make sure that you're doing is you're having this idea of, where do I want to go? Like, I'm ready to remove this old story. I'm ready to remove this old block. And you need to have a healthy way to do that. So if you uncork it and you allow the energy to flow, there might be grief in there. There might be anger in there. There might be a lot of joy. There might be a lot of craziness that's going to come with it. And so when I'm talking about having healthy things in place as you're moving forward, you want to have healthy things that are put in place for you to help process that energy out of your body and not just divert it into someplace else. So stories are going to come up. Emotions are going to come up. Past trauma is going to come up, and you want to be able to have a safe place where you can talk about it. In some cases, this might mean that looking at therapists that might be able to help you. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that whoever is helping you is very clear on what it is that you want to do. So if you're talking to people and saying, I want to become more intimate with my relationships, and I know it's going to bring up some issues, so are you willing to listen to what I have to say? I'm not looking to be fixed. I'm not looking for you to solve my problems. I just need a space where I can express what it is that I want to say. The next card we have is blowing a kiss. And if you remember from last week, we talked about how this is like from afar. And so the question that I came up with for this position is, what stories from my past need to be explored and released with love and compassion? And it's interesting that that's the question. And we were just talking about in the Five of Wands that there's energies that are blocked. There's things that are stuck. And because of that, we are stuck in old stories. We keep going back. We keep going back. And so looking at releasing these things, it makes a lot of sense now that what we want to do is we want to release this. And so here we have the Ace of Coins. And we need to go back to childhood. We need to go back to younger times. The Ace of Pentacles is kind of like that first beginning. It's you can look at it as either being when the seed goes in the ground or when you have the seed in your hand and you're thinking of all the absolute potential that that seed can hold. And this is what you need to go back to is for you to be able to be more intimate with other people, you need to be able to go back to the point in time where some of these original wounds, some of these original traumas, some of these original issues with intimacy first started. And for all of us, everything starts before the age of 7, because by the age of 7, we have created our love map. And so all of the intimacy ideas that we have, the beliefs that we carry forward, they all come from that first 7 years of our life. And so if there's any trauma, if there's any abuse, if there's anything during our first 7 years of life that make us believe that being intimate and being close to other people is dangerous, then we're carrying that forward. And so it may be difficult for us to access those memories. And what we want to do is we want to go forward with this with compassion, kindness, and love, and be able to say, even if there's something from my past that led me to believe that it's dangerous to be intimate with other people, I'm ready to release that now. There's nothing saying in the Ace of Coins that we have to go back and remember and relive it. What it's saying is it's saying, hey, the roots of this problem came from when you were a child. The roots of these problems came to you even before you understood what was going on. When you were that young, sweet, innocent spirit that said, wow, I'm in a physical body and I want to experience the intimacy of being physically connected to other people. And so there was all of the hopes and the aspirations that we have even before we even understand them, that subconscious level, that need of babies, even just to want to be held and to be loved. And so for some of us, the traumas might be so deep rooted that we have forgotten them. Others of us may just have a hard time remembering what we did yesterday. So to go back to when we were young might be quite difficult. And so it's about looking at, I would say that what we're looking at is we're looking to release the stories, especially the ones that we keep saying. Think about the stories from your childhood that you keep telling that have hurt and pain connected to them. These are the kind of stories where you're like, well, when I was growing up, my mother did X. When I was growing up, my father did X. When I was growing up, my grandparents did X. Or when I was growing up, my sister or my brother, right? It's when we're going back and we're telling these stories about hurt and pain. Those are what we need to release. Those are what we need to heal. And those are the stories that are becoming blocks between our intimacy issues with even with our family at this point, because if we keep going back to the point when someone from our family hurt us as a child, we never process from that point. We keep them and ourselves stuck in that point. Meaning, if I had an issue with, we'll say if I had an issue with my mother, then that part of me is always going to be stuck there trying to find a way to resolve the issue. And because I'm stuck there, I don't grow, right? So even if I'm having a conversation with my mother now, there's a part of me that is always going to be that hurt child that doesn't feel seen, that doesn't feel loved, that doesn't feel whatever it is. And so is never able to really engage in a fully intimate relationship with my mother because there's that hurt that's just hanging over. And so if we were hurt even outside of the formative years, like let's say you have a childhood crush or you have a boyfriend or whatever, or a girlfriend when you're younger and something happens, that can impact your love map, and it can impact how you will interact with other relationships, because the younger we are and the less mature we are when we have these woundings, the harder they are for us to process them, because they happen at a time when cognitively we are unable to really process those meanings. So we get to the age, say where I am at 50, and looking back and going, wow, I have no idea why that was so traumatic for me at the time. So and so in grade 1 said they were my boyfriend, and then they came back the next day and said they hated me, right? Like, ooh, that crushed my life. And because we don't have, as children, the ability to understand and comprehend and process emotions. For us, when you're young, even into your teens, when you have something happen, our emotional processing skills and abilities are so immature that they really are life-threatening for us. And so when we get to the point where we're at in our later years and we look back and go, well, that was silly. It wasn't silly. That was very real and traumatic at the time. And that's what we have to process and be able to say, I fully support and understand how you felt at that time. And now we're going to process it so that we can move on. The next card we have is Kiss and Tell. And this one is looking at, where am I out of integrity between my actions and my communication? And one of the reasons I went with this one is because when you look at Kiss and Tell, you have the kiss of the action, but then the telling is, who are you telling? How are you telling? And what are you telling? And so we're looking at, in our relationships, what are we doing? And then what are we saying? And where are we out of integrity? Where are we breaking? I want to say, trying to think of the word for it. Promises. No, it's not promises. Think I cannot think of the word of it, but it's where you're breaking those kind of acceptances between two people when you're being intimate with them, to say confidences. That's what it is. Are you breaking confidences? And are you talking about what's going on in your relationship with everybody and anybody that you can find? And so for this one, we have the Four of Cups. And where this actually is an interesting way to come into this question is, if you're looking at where you're in integrity between your actions and your communications, what it is maybe right now you're not able to see what is going on in your relationship because you're longing for something else. Maybe you're longing for someone else. If you're single, you might even just be longing for a relationship. And so you might start to just kind of think of all the different things that are going on and telling people about what's going on. And if you're in a relationship and you're talking to people about all of the things that you find wrong, or all the infractions that your partner is committing, it might be time to stop and take a good look at, where is that coming from? Is your partner actually doing things that you need to share, right? If you're in a relationship and you're being beaten, then obviously that needs to come out, and it needs to come out in a good, healthy way. But if you're in a relationship where you have expectations from your partner and your partner is not doing them, then instead of going and complaining to other people, it's time to sit down and have a conversation with your partner and say, hey, this is what I would like to have. Are you aware of that? Because a lot of times we expect our partners to mind read or to read our body language without being able to tell them and give them clues as to what it is that we want. A lot of times we only will say something when they've disappointed us. And think about the last time that you had a problem with an intimate relationship, be it a lover, a family member, a friend, and really stop and look at that and say, okay, was this problem a real problem based on the fact that in the past I had told them this is something that I wanted, or I didn't want, or I liked, or I didn't like? Or is it something that in my head I said, well, most people would know that this is the way it goes, and most people would know that this is what I want, or this is what I don't like. And so they get all upset. A perfect example for me is that I often will get upset, say, with my children, because I'll be doing all kinds of things. And in my head, I'm going, can you help me? Can you help me? Can you help me? But I never ask them for help. And so I end up getting all upset and I get upset with them. And I'm like, oh, I do all this stuff and nobody ever helps me. And they look at me like, but you never asked. Right. And so it's very important for us to look at where our actions, right? So my actions of doing all these things and not asking for help, and then my communication of yelling at them because they're not helping me, where that's out of alignment, where that's out of sync, where that's out of integrity. And so the hardest part, and I think this is one of the other reasons why we have a cup here, is this is really difficult because that means we have to be communicating with the people that are involved in the situation versus going off and gossiping to everybody else about everything that's wrong. And sitting down and having the conversation, the heart-to-heart conversations with people. If we've been traumatized in the past, if we've been told to keep our mouth shut in the past, if we've been tried to speak out in the past and been hurt, it makes it that much more difficult now. So we're going to go back to here, right? If we had a lot of past issues, if we had a lot of things that we argue over ourselves and we'll say script different things in our head, right? Like we'll spend hours and hours in our head going, I have to have this conversation with my friend about this. And so how can I put it out? How can I talk about it? If we go back to here and saying, well, when I was little, this happened, or when I was a teenager, this happened, right? We're not allowing ourselves to see this. What we're looking at is we're going, when am I going to find the one that's really going to see me, understand me, read my mind, be magical, and do all these kinds of things for me without me having to say anything? It's never going to happen. We have to be willing to sit down and clear this up and find out, even asking them, where is it that what I'm telling you and what I'm doing don't seem to jive? And really get those questions, because the more you can do that, the more you're going to unblock those energy fields, and you're going to get some momentum, and you're going to start to be able to create healthy pathways to more and greater intimacy. Next, we have the kiss of death. And for this one, it's what needs to be healed and released with love so I can be more comfortable with intimacy. This is our first major arcana of this spread, and we have the Chariot. And the Chariot is all about direction. It's all about will. It's all about movement and momentum. And it's interesting that we had a movement momentum card with the Eight of Wands, because what we're doing now is we're looking to take that momentum from the Eight of Wands and move in the direction that we want to go. And so because we're looking at the kiss of death, we're looking at a crossroads. And again, like on the card where you have the two horses pointed in opposite directions, we get stuck. We get stuck at these crossroads because we're trying to figure out what is the best way to go. What do we need to do in order to get ourselves to move in a direction that will help us? Because we're looking to build greater and stronger intimacy within our relationships. We're at a crossroad where we have to let something go to move forward with this. But at the same time, we have to make sure that even within ourselves, we're on the same path. We don't want to be moving forward with all of this chaotic energy, this argumentative energy, this confusion and this not knowing. We don't want to move forward with that. We want to move forward in one clear focus. And so what we need to heal and release are those old stories that have us going one way and then the next, that have us standing on the fence and not being able to know, what is it that we really want? Where is it that we really want to go? You want to clear out the communication problems so that you're not sitting there in the situation and longing for something else. You want to be able to transform your relationships so that when you're moving forward, you know where you're going, you're driving the boat, and you're making sure that you're going in a direction that you want to go, so that you're not feeling blindsided all of a sudden by going, hey, where did this come from? I don't understand why we're having this problem. Because you've taken the time to have the hard conversations. You've taken the time to go back and disconnect and disentangle yourself from your childhood stories, your young adult stories. The next one we have is Kiss My Derriere. And this question here is, what is keeping me from being authentic in my relationships? And so here we have the 10 of Cups. And one of the things that's interesting with the Ten of Cups is the Ten of Cups is usually a very happily ever after, everything is good, everything is wonderful. But when we're looking at it from the sense of where am I not being authentic, the Ten of Cups is all about finding the home of the heart. It's about being in a place where you can feel the love, you can feel the ability to be able to be in communion and intimate relationships with other people without the masks, without the pretenses, without any of that spilling over into it. And so for us, at this point, in order to be able to be authentic in the relationships, we have to really understand what is home to me. Where do I feel that I am loved? Where do I feel that I am accepted? And because it's the Ten of Cups, this is all about an emotional based home, right? We had, and I'm kind of going to go back to where we started here, where it was all about energetics, right? Like, so we're stuck in energetics, but now we have to move into the emotion. So once the energy starts to flow and we start to be able to open up and clear the conversations that are clogging up the energy in our heart, then we're going to be able to have these conversations and really start to look at what it is that we want. Because when we can get out of that idea of, I want something better than what I have, and some of that also comes from going, well, who's defining the what I have or the what I want to have, right? Like, am I looking at my friend's relationship going, they look so happy over there, that's what I want? Just know that they might look happy, but they have problems of their own. They might be looking at you and saying, oh gosh, I wish I had what she has, or I wish I had what he has. And so what you need to do is you need to spend time as you're clearing out all the old hurts, as you're clearing out all the old paths, as these blockages are leaving, you need to spend some time sitting down and asking yourself, get curious about where are the places, who are the people, and what are the things that when I'm there with them, doing them, I feel so at peace. I feel so happy. I feel so filled with love and hope and enjoyment. Those are the things that you want to cultivate. Those are the things that you want to bring in. Those are the pathways that are going to open up intimacy. Because when you're feeling those, when you're engaged in those, you're not coming from the trauma, you're not coming from the pain, you're not coming from the hurt, you're coming from the heart. And that's what this one's saying, is that for us to stand in our authentic relationships, we have to come from the heart. We have to come from the whole healed heart. The next one we have is Kiss Your Ass Goodbye. And this one is interesting to come right after how to stand in our authenticity, because this is asking, where have I abandoned myself? So if I'm not standing in my authenticity right now, it's because I have abandoned myself somewhere. And so now we're going to look at where's one of the places, what is one thing that I have done to abandon myself? And here we have the Hanged Man. This is our second major arcana card of this reading. And the Hanged Man is all about sacrifice and perceived stagnation. And so it's interesting because when we're looking at, like, where have I abandoned myself? Where have I gotten to a point where I was asked to give something of myself, to give something up for greater understanding, greater revelation, and I shied away from it. I pulled back from it. And because it's a major arcana card, this is a life lesson, right? Like, it's asking, where are you tying yourself up, first of all? Like, where are you tying yourself up in old stories, in old patterns? Where are you recreating these wounds over and over and over again in your life? Because where you're doing that is where you're not allowing yourself to move forward. The Hangman asks us to give something up sometimes in order to get clarity. And sometimes we think what we're being asked to give up is different than what we're actually being asked to give up. Because we're looking to remove blocks to intimacy, the Hangman is asking you to say, hey, it is time to give up the stories that you're tying yourself up in. And that's what's keeping you from having greater intimacy. If you want to have a deeper understanding of yourself, if you want to have a deeper connection with yourself and others, you have to let these go. You have to untangle yourself, right yourself, and go forward. And these all tie in to at the beginning, right? Like being all tied up and being all stuck and needing to clear those blockages. And even like with the ace and the 4 of cups. Here, I've got a lot of cards to go through. So the ace and the 4 of cups, right? So even with those, they're all saying you're stuck in something from the past. You're stuck in some kind of illusion, distortion from those wounds from the past. And so right now, you are not in any authentic relationships unless you want to have an authentic relationship with denial, with hurt, and with trauma, because that is what and who you're engaging with. You're engaging with all the negative aspects of everything that you have experienced to this point. And so the sacrifice you're being asked to make is to let that all go and to trust your heart to someone else. And that can be, if you've been hurt, the scariest thing that you could ever possibly do. The French kiss, our passion, our truly intimate kind of kiss, what is at the root of my blocks around intimacy. And so here we have the Page of Wands. And what this is going back to is if we're looking at what is at the root of my blocks around intimacy, it was something that happened in childhood. And there was something that happened that was extremely traumatic. Now, when I say extremely traumatic, I'm talking to the energy system, and I'm talking to the way that the mind of you as a child, as a young teenager, processed it, right? It could be a very physically traumatic experience that you went through. It could be something totally different. It's how your brain processed it. If you went through a situation where your brain said, I am in danger from this person that I trusted, that is going to be at the root of all of this. And because it's energetic, what it means is it's the energy of the event. You have processed the event, you've processed the emotions of it, but it has stunted part of your system. It has damaged part of your nervous system, probably. It is probably impacting the way the vagus nerve is acting. And so because of it, there is an energetics within the body that needs to be realigned. There is an energetic at the root of all of this. There is something that has gotten stuck in that system from that very first infraction with intimacy that has basically ripple affected throughout everything. And so one of the ways that you can do this is to work on realigning your energetic body. And so spending time in nature, spending time amongst calm, peaceful places, and just you could spend time in meditation. Now, meditation will be whatever it works for you. Some people, they walk when they meditate. Some people will sit and meditate. Some people listen to music. Some people dance. There's a lot of different ways. But what you want to do is you want to do something that when you're doing it, you can feel the energetics within your body shifting and moving. You want to be able to do something that is going to help to reset those energies. Let them go. And again, we're going to be counting on this 8 of Wands to come on up at this point and help to really punch through and clear whatever it is that has crystallized and solidified in the energy system to be able to break it free and allow you to finally process and move forward. Our final card and final kiss is the chocolate kiss. And this one says, what can I do to cultivate more sweetness and intimacy within my relationships? And here we have justice. And I really like that justice is coming up, considering some of the other cards that have come up, especially when we look at this one, the 4 of Cups, because the reason why I like that this is coming up is justice is all about being fair in the moment and understanding things in the moment. And so in order to be able to have more sweetness and intimacy in the relationship, we have to be in the moment. We have to stop allowing the past to influence, right? Like justice, when you go by the definition of blind justice, it is supposed to be bias-free, judgment-free, and it's supposed to be fair. And so if you had somebody, going back to the example at the beginning, if you had somebody with brown hair that cheated on you, when you meet somebody else with brown hair that seems interested in you and wants to have a relationship, you have to let go of the past that somebody with brown hair hurt you and say, this might be a person with brown hair, but this is not that person. And that's what justice is coming up and saying. Look, if you really want to have more sweetness and you really want to have more intimacy within your relationships, you have to come at it by saying, this person in front of me is a different person. This person is a unique person. And this is the person that I'm dealing with now. Even if that person is someone that you've known your whole life. So going back to familial relationships, for instance. So if you want to have a more intimate relationship with your mother or your father or your siblings, you have to be able to be in that moment and say, this is my sister now. Not my sister from 5 minutes ago, not my sister from 10 years ago, not my sister from when I was a little girl. This is my sister now. They are an adult. If they are an adult, I mean, some people will have younger children, siblings and stuff, but you want to look at them and say, this is what they are right now in this moment. So that the trauma and the triggers from the past are not going to be able to blindside you. They're not going to also be able to cloud your judgment and have that be the reason why you're making your choices and making your decisions. Because one of the things also about justice is it's all about accepting the consequences of our actions. And so if you want more intimacy, you need to make different choices, because if you want more intimacy, it means that you're not getting it right now. So all the choices that you're making now are not leading you to more intimate relationships. And so the best way to do that is accept the consequences for your actions and say, okay, everything I've done up to now has left me still wanting to be more intimate, has still left me with these hurts and wounds. And what can I do differently as of today? Because along with looking at the person that you're in the relationship with and saying, hey, this is this person now in this moment, you have to be able to do the same thing for yourself. You have to be able to sit there and say, hey, this is me. I am 50 years old. I am, you know, calm. I am, you can even say like, I'm elevated. I'm, dysregulated, or I'm happy. And you have to be able to be who you are in the moment, right? Like not longing to be the perfect representation of yourself or in the perfect relationship. You have to be able to sit there and say, look, in this moment right now, this is who I am. And even if part of you says, but I'm hurting. Okay, part of me right now is hurting, and I'm in this relationship with you, and I need you to know that as of right this moment, in this instant, in this relationship, I am hurting, and I need you to know that, so that we can make different choices, so that we can be clear, so that we can be authentic and stand in that authenticity. Because when you're standing in authenticity, you are opening up the road, and you're going to be able to move in the direction of greater intimacy. Because if you're masking, or if you're out of alignment or out of integrity, then you will never, ever be able to be intimate, because it's always going to be a lie of some kind. So just to recap, like that's a lot that's come up in here, but what we're really looking at is we want to be able to move towards intimacy in a way that we can do it by loving all the parts of ourselves and letting go of the past that keeps coming up over and over again. And you can see where the past is really stumping you by the patterns you're repeating. And that's why you end up with people that say, every time I date a Kevin, I always have this problem, right? Every time I go out with somebody with brown hair, I have this problem. It's because they're repeating the patterns and they're not allowing themselves to see it. And so the best way for us to move forward, and I'm just kind of looking, that it's interesting, there are no, other than the swords that you have on this one, we have no swords that have come up. So it's not necessarily about actual communication and the words that we're saying. What we're dealing with at this point is trauma from our childhood and into our young adulthood. And then it's all emotions and it's all energies that are blocked and trapped within our bodies that we need to find a way to direct them in a healthy way, right? We do have 3 major arcana cards, and they all do tie in together, right? Like you have trying to find the direction that you want to go. And the best way to do that is to untangle yourself from the past and to get clarity and to make the choices, accept the consequences of what you've done, and to make the choices that are going to move you forward towards greater, deeper, and more loving and intimate relations. So I hope you really enjoyed this reading and that something spoke to you. And I look forward to seeing you next week when we do our second variation of the, the hold me, thrill me, kiss me, kill me spread. Until then, take care, and I'll see you again.